10 rules that will make you mentally unbreakable. Nearly 2,000 years ago, one man sat alone almost every night in the middle of a war and wrote down rules for his own mind, not for an audience, not for history, just for himself. He was the most powerful man in the known world. And still, some nights, he couldn't sleep until he'd written the same lesson down again, because he kept forgetting it, and he knew he would forget it again tomorrow. Those private notes survived. We call them meditations today, and buried inside them are 10 operating rules so clear, so brutal, so exact that they quietly resurface, almost word for word, in writers born nearly 2,000 years later. One was an English novelist obsessed with seeing reality without flinching, even when the truth was ugly. The other was a British-born philosopher who spent his life trying to explain one single idea, that fighting the present moment is the actual source of almost all human suffering. Same conclusion, centuries apart. Here are 10 of Marcus Aurelius's laws, and exactly where they resurface, generations later, in minds that had no idea they were repeating him. Law 1. You control your judgment, not the event. Marcus Aurelius separated the world into 2 categories: what's up to you and what isn't. Nearly all suffering comes from confusing the two. The philosopher Alan Watts built much of his later work on a strikingly similar idea, describing anxiety as the result of trying to grip and control a life that only ever moves like water. The harder you try to hold it still, the more it slips through your hands. Law 2. Expect difficult people before you meet them. He reminded himself each morning that he'd encounter ingratitude and rudeness that day, not to become bitter, but so nothing could ambush him. Law 3. The obstacle is the material, not the enemy. What blocks the path can become the path. Difficulty isn't separate from progress. Often it's the very thing progress is built from. Law 4. Your time is shorter than you think. He wrote often about mortality, not to frighten himself, but to stop wasting the time he actually had on grudges and status gains. Law 5. Stop arguing about what a good person is. Be one. Less theorizing about virtue, more actually practicing it, a rule Marcus repeated to himself when he caught his own mind stalling in abstraction. Law 6. See what's actually in front of you. George Orwell spent much of his writing life on a version of this same discipline, arguing that clear sight is harder than it looks, that people constantly distort plain facts to fit what they already want to believe, and that seeing reality without that distortion takes deliberate, ongoing effort. Marcus Aurelius pursued the same clarity for a different reason, not political honesty, but personal peace. Both agreed that self-deception, however comforting, always costs you something later. Law 7. Act without needing the outcome to go your way. Effort is yours, results are not. Detach the two, and you can act fully without being wrecked by an outcome you never controlled anyway. Law 8. Everything fades. Build character, not monument. He predicted his own name would eventually be forgotten, and used that fact to focus on what he was becoming, not what he'd be remembered for. Law 9. Other people's opinions are not your business. He reminded himself that chasing approval was handing control of his own peace to people who would forget the compliment by dinner. Orwell made a related argument about independent thought itself. that holding an honest opinion in a climate built on conformity and comfortable illusion requires real resistance against the pull of what everyone around you has already agreed to believe. Law 10. Meet what happens to you. Don't resent it, not forced positivity. Just the discipline of engaging with reality as it is, rather than the version of it you wish had happened instead. This is close to the entire foundation of Alan Watts's later philosophy, that resistance to what's already happening is the actual source of suffering, not the event itself, and that a difficult life gets measurably lighter the moment you stop arguing with what's already true. Marcus Aurelius never fully mastered these. The notes exist precisely because he had to keep reminding himself. Centuries later, an English novelist and a British philosopher, working in entirely different fields with entirely different vocabularies, kept arriving back at the same handful of truths. That repetition across 2,000 years and wildly different lives is the actual proof these laws hold up. This isn't a state you arrive at once. It's a practice you return to, especially on the days it feels hardest. If this helped you see it differently, stay a while. There's more where this came from.